Okay, so platform update as far as Studio's concerned. So Skillable Studio, or just those that haven't, if they haven't caught the branding, so what we used to refer to LOD or Lab on Demand. Obviously, it's now branded as Skillable Studio. So I think there's a few things, and some of you will be very familiar with this because I've talked about this over the last few months, really, and I just wanted to highlight some things that are happening. So if we think about the lab developer workshops that we've run this year, one of the things that I've provided as part of each lab developer workshop is what's coming out in the next push to production. And if we think about most of the push to productions, they were on a regular cadence schedule. We pushed updates to the Skillable Studio platform on the last Thursday of the month. So interestingly, the same day as the lab developer workshop. So we do the lab developer workshop, talk about the new features, and then, hey presto, if everything went according to plan A, all the features would appear that evening, or for Friday morning for you. Okay. But also one of the things I've been talking about is the fact that there's been a lot of re-architecting of the platform. And there's been a lot of reasons for a lot of this re-architecting of the platform. And one of those is actually so that we can update more frequently, faster, be more agile, respond to customer requests, those sort of things. Before, updating the platform was quite monolithic. So we had to do it on a sort of a pretty regular cadence schedule, and it was quite a heavy lift to sort of do the updates and so on. So this work's sort of coming to an end now. So this is going to allow our developers and Skillable to be a lot more responsive, a lot more flexible, and addressing customer needs. Okay, so there are lots of benefits to this from this ability to do the release cadence. So I guess the one thing that I just want you to really take away based on stuff that I've been talking about all year is our release cadence is going to vary a little bit more. Okay, and in a lot of possibilities, we might be doing much smaller but multiple updates a month. Okay, especially around fixes and things along those lines. Now, what that policy and what that process looks like, we don't actually know today. But now we've done the work, it's now a time for the appropriate development teams to sit down and say, right, how are we going to, what's going to be actually our release cycle? And of course, once we've got that information, I'll release that to you as part of one of these workshops early next year. Okay, so, but I just wanted to let you know that that model is changing, and hopefully that's just going to deliver a better quality product, a faster updating product, for you all to be able to enjoy it. So I'm really hoping it's going to be a really big positive step. Since the last lab developer workshop, though, there have been a few changes. Some of these you might have noticed, some of these you might not. So again, I apologize for those that are relatively new to these. We've been doing some work with respect to automated activities, and I guess it's worth just me giving everybody the whole story because of some people that are new on here. So because people use our platform for taking high stakes examinations, so where examinations might be, people's jobs or pay rises or promotions, all sorts of things might be on the line, even the ability to get the job because you've got to pass the exam to get the job, for example. When there were automated lab activities in there, which effectively are scoring how good the user achieved the results, we used to have some very robust retry logic because we understood the importance of that. What that retry logic did was it exposed some edge cases where we would never complete scoring. Okay, so it was very specific scenarios, and they were quite minor in terms of their number, but if you did hit them, you hit them quite badly. And so effectively the problem we run into was in scenarios where we was unable to score because of the lab environment. So a classic example of this would be, imagine you've got a lab, you've got a virtual machine in that lab, which is powered off when you start the lab. And the objective is the user has to install an operating system, install some software, and you might then go and grade that. Okay. Well, let's say someone just launches the lab, doesn't do anything in it, and then the lab just gets ended effectively. Okay, at that point, the automatic scoring would kick in, and we would actually end up in a very robust retry mechanism, trying to retry against the machine that's powered off and obviously not getting any response from it and so on. And we could get stuck in a bit of a loop where we end up in a race condition because of our robustness in logic. So the first thing that happened was we put a whole load of pre-flight checks in and stuff. So we would actually do better analysis of the environment to make a decision whether scoring was possible. And like everything, when you do these sorts of things, it exposes other issues, which you then only find out when it goes into production. And this is really what this box here is about. So there is a possibility with all of our improvements to sort of stop those labs going wrong, that there was even a smaller set of edge cases where the lab developer might actually need their logic to retry. So their automated script actually needs to retry. And there was no way for the lab developer to control that. So just imagine scenarios where you might be, booting a VM and someone tries to score it while the VM's booting, or you've got some software that they go and install and then they score it, but the services for the software take a few minutes to come online. Those types of scenarios, okay, they would be scenarios where we would error out pretty fast, okay, and we wouldn't wait. So what we've now done is we've now added the capability for lab developers in those types of scenarios to put their own retries in here. Okay, so effectively they can sort of say, I'd like this to go and retry 10 times. That should give it enough time to actually check to see whether the service is up and so on. Yeah, if it's not by 10 times, then we know actually the task has not been completed. So that's almost, if you like, the last piece of that puzzle, just to put some power back in the lab developer's hands. So that's there. It's in production today. You can go and look at activities and you can plug that value in. By default, the retry value is effectively set to 0. But you can increase that for more retries if you want to. So that's the number of retries. So that's there. Other things. Got to take the power back. That's true, Andrew. Other things that you might or might not have heard about. I think we've been talking about it a little while again. We've built a new data center in Ashburn. Okay, and that was there to replace the Tampa data center, which is our old friend right back from day one. So Tampa is now decommissioned. So the last network cables and so on were all pulled out of Tampa this week. So effectively, Ashburn has actually been live, production ready, and delivering production labs for in excess of 2 months now. But Tampa was sharing some of that load, but Tampa is actually gone officially as part of this week. So US East in our list of data centers now is Tampa. Oh, sorry, is now Ashburn, not Tampa. Okay. Some people ask why. So why did we do this? There's 2 primary business reasons that we did this. First and foremost, Tampa is actually pretty close to Hurricane Alley. So actually it was in, so anytime hurricanes and so on were happening, there was a lot of nervousness amongst our execs in terms of how that was going to impact us and affect us. Ashburn is not impacted by that. The second reason is actually network related. Because of the mesh network that we have that links all of our data centers together, because of some reasons that have not actually been shared with me, but effectively Tampa couldn't be part of that mesh network. So effectively it was on a bit of a dogleg off our mesh network, which actually meant there was capacity problems when trying to replicate to and from Tampa and so on. So it wasn't as efficient as it could be. Okay, so Tampa has gone. Last thing on this page is about the Studio dashboard. So if we go back again to June and July, we talked about the new dashboard for Studio. The new dashboard got pushed out in August, and then within about 10 days, the new dashboard disappeared again. And I think on the August Lab Developer Workshop, we discussed that in terms of, for a few customers, it actually caused some issues to do with single sign-on. So customers that had single sign-on integration with Skillable Studio actually found they then couldn't actually access any labs and edit them. So we had to remove it. Okay, that's all now been resolved, and actually Studio has been back in place for the whole of October. It actually went back in late September, but you had to navigate to Studio to actually use the new dashboard. It wasn't the default view. Okay, but actually in the next week, 10 days, we will be switching back to the new Studio dashboard. That again, we will see as part of the work we're going to do here as well, if you've not seen it already. So that's coming back. So that will just transparently switch over in the next week or two. Okay. The other thing, especially because we did a summer of cloud, and we did actually quite a few bits around cloud, there's actually a really important bug fix I just want to highlight, which again caused us a few challenges. So like most public cloud providers, they will often go and make changes to their platform, and that can actually be changes to the API and so on. And AWS is actually pretty terrible for making changes to their API or making changes to their command line tools and effectively not telling anybody and just breaking stuff. Effectively, it caused a problem with respect to EC2s when you actually got excited, Andrew. And so effectively, if you had a lab where you provisioned EC2s, if you then save that lab, the EC2s actually got left running. Okay, so effectively, they were still burning up money as part of that. So we've now just on the verge of deploying a high priority fix. So something that happened very recently, we detected it, we've got the fix, and it will be going into production pretty soon as well. It's currently in QA just to make sure that it passes all of our testing. So I know I don't normally talk specifically about bug fixes, but this, of course, is potentially a bug fix that could be very visible to yourselves as our customers. So we'd like to share that one.